Good morning, almost afternoon at this point. It is Tuesday, December 17th. I'm Rick, and yeah, I have a son home sick from school, so yay. Um, I just got off the phone with somebody who was interviewing me about MSNBC. They had seen a piece I'd written a couple of weeks ago about CNN and what would I do with that network if I had the chance to run it. And they were working on a piece for MSNBC or about MSNBC and wanted to sort of pick my brains a bit. And it got me thinking, that's a very interesting challenge. You have a network, it's going to be separated from NBC News, so it's going to lose those NBC News assets. On the upside, they're losing some of the constraints and some of the battles they went back and forth with NBC News executives. So it's going to free them up a little bit. Now, when you start looking at what can the network do, how can it reposition itself for this new spun-off world? One of the things we don't know is what the budget's going to be. What kind of constraints are they going to have? And I mean, without that, some of the decisions are a little hard to figure out. The network has all of its prime time people other than Rachel Maddow. Their contracts are all coming up this year. So part of that budgetary decision is, can we afford to keep everyone even if we want to, what? And that's just one of those answers I don't have. I just will say that the network's probably going to change its name. It certainly seems like that NBC News executives would like to see MSNBC be something else, and the MS part is 20 years away from actually being accurate. So I have no idea what they would name it, but assuming it's News Channel X, what do you do with this thing? Well, you're going to have to replace some of those NBC News assets. And also, you're just going to really have to figure, what is our place in this universe? MSNBC right now has a really old audience. I mean, cable news in general has an old audience, over 60. I think NBC's average demo is somewhere 69, 70, which is really scary because that's the average. So you figure there's people 80 and maybe 90 watching the network. And that's really not a sustainable business model, particularly if you're sort of in this spun-off world where you need to be able to, if not pay your way, at least not lose money every year. Um, so you need to get a younger demographic. The upside is that the audience for cable news right now is fairly small. That none of the networks, even Fox, when you're looking at the numbers, in most average weeks, they're not drawing a huge amount of people. So it wouldn't take much of a new audience to make MSNBC or News Channel X profitable, viable. So then you look at it and go, okay, well, if I'm going to bring in these new people, if I'm going to bring in some maybe younger people, what do we do? Well, I think the first thing that you do is most people already think of News Channel X as a left-wing cable network anyway. So I think you lean into that, not in a sort of Michael Moore kind of ranting at the world way, but in a way of, okay, look, we're more Democrat friendly than not. That doesn't mean that we're going to go along with everything that Democrats say. As a matter of fact, we're going to push back against a lot of it. And I think really more specifically, what you do is you target that non-corporate Democratic audience that really doesn't have a national voice right now. And by non-corporate, I mean really since the Clinton administration, Democrats have had this attitude of, look, Wall Street, rich people, that's where the money is. So we need to be friendly to Wall Street. We need to be friendly to business. And I think there's an audience out there who's saying, look, we don't want to hurt business. We don't want to damage companies, but we're living in a society where people on Wall Street, where people running big businesses, they're getting all of the breaks and we're not getting any of them. And I think if you lean into that sort of populist approach, also doing it in a left-wing sort of way, like I said, not a preachy way, not a reflexive, hey, we're not going to do any criticism. I mean, I think you can be really aggressive with people, but this is an audience that's really not being served by a national cable news network. And unencumbered now by the MSNBC news executives who really never trusted what was going on at MSNBC. Um, you have a chance to grow. You have a chance to bring some people in. And honestly, you can take the approach that a lot of the startup cable networks have had with their personalities, which is you bring in some new people. to try them out and basically say, look, you're not going to make a whole lot of money right now, but if you do this right, if you do a great job, you're going to have a model, you're going to have a brand that you can take somewhere else and make a ton of money. This will give you a leg up on your career. So we want you to be aggressive and we want you to be inventive. And that's really what you do with that MSNBC weekend thing. That's what you do with some of the off hours, at least initially, experiment, get out there, do stuff that's cheap but innovative. Try and make some waves. I mean, I think there's a really interesting challenge. I mean, honestly, if I could pick a job in TV to do, this might be the one, because you have a lot of opportunities to sort of recreate what a cable news network looks like and do it in a way that because it's sort of spun off. I mean, Comcast investors are going to end up owning most of this spin-co, as they call it anyway, at least in the short term. But of all the cable networks, big and small, this whatever MSNBC turns out to be has the most opportunity to do something new and different. And there's a lot of potential here. I mean, honestly, do I think that's what they're going to do? No, no. I think they're going to sort of plod along and do a MSNBC, but without all the money and NBC News assets, and it's going to be sort of which is too bad. But I guess we'll see. If you have any thoughts, always shoot them out to me, and I will see you tomorrow.